I was not planning on posting a video this week because this is a very busy week for us. It is Fair Week, and my kids show livestock at the fair. If you want to see what that process looks like, I will link the video from last year's fair up in cards. But anyway, very busy week for us. However, it rained all night last night, and it's supposed to rain all day today, so our plans have changed. We still need to go to the fair this morning and feed the pigs, check on them, take care of them, but rather than spend all of our day riding rides and having fun, we are going to come home because it's going to be raining and there's not much I can do outside here at home. So I figured today would be a perfect day to organize my homeschool supplies for the upcoming school year and show you guys what I am using for curriculum. I have a lot of tried and true materials that you will recognize from last year, but I definitely have some new stuff too. And part of that is because of our reversion to Catholicism. I've talked about that in a previous video, and that definitely changes things for us. That changes what catechism we will be using, and it changes just a few materials, but I'm still sticking with classical education, so a lot of it will look very familiar. The first thing I need to do is clean out our homeschool area from last year. We finished our last day of homeschool and then left for Florida the next day, so I did not clean up anything. Hopefully I can keep the baby distracted here while I do this so he doesn't tear everything apart. But anyway, I just didn't get to this. I haven't touched our homeschool stuff all summer. It's been quite wonderful to have a true full summer break. So I'm just going to go through and tidy up, get rid of books that we finished that I need to just file away. I do save all of the books that we finished just for my records, reorganize some things, and see what I need as far as supplies goes. I think I'm pretty well set, but I still need to look through and just make sure I'm good on the basics, notebooks, pencils, pens, all of that good stuff. As I take out all of the old stuff from last year, I'm going to be adding our new materials for this year. So let's start with math. For math, I use Math UC. I love it. It is a very simple, no frills curriculum. Each kid has their own level here. You can take tests on the website, I believe, to see where your child needs to be placed. But we really like no frills when it comes to math. Next up is Cursive. I do include Cursive in my curriculum. My 6th grader, this will be his 3rd year. And my other kids are getting started as well. So you can see he's completed this book here. These are from Memoria Press, New American Cursive. They have different levels. I really like this cursive plan. Here we have Explode the Code. My 7-year-old will be finishing up the last 3 levels in this series. Explode the Code has to do with decoding and phonics. So I couple this with whatever I use to teach reading, whether that is secret stories or teach your child to read in 100 easy lessons. I like both of those for reading, but Explode the Code is just great for new readers. Next up, one of my favorite subjects, this is history. So we are going to be cycling back to the ancient world. We do classical education, so we do a 4-year cycle. We do the ancients, medieval, early modern, and modern. So you can see here, this curriculum comes with activity books, which, I'm not going to make my big kids do activities. I asked them if they wanted the activity book. They can do activities as they listen to me read if they'd like, but they don't have to. Now, I did get test books for my 2 older kids, so I think that they will enjoy that. They're 5th and 6th grade. That's the perfect age to start testing. We haven't done testing in the past, but I think it's a good time. So this curriculum is The Story of Civilization from Tan Books. This is a Catholic curriculum, so this is obviously new to us, but I'm very excited about this. And I'm going to use this famous Men of Rome book from Memoria Press to supplement because, when you're studying the ancients, you obviously have to do a deep dive on Rome. That's non-negotiable. And here from Simply Charlotte Mason, you guys can really see I pieced my stuff together. I have this book of centuries. So for my big kids, they're going to have to start filling in noteworthy people, events, ideas, and everything from the centuries in the ancient times. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think that they will enjoy that. And while I'm at it here, I need to put everybody's name on their books. For spelling, I use the Phonetic Zoo from IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing. I really like this program because it is student-led. So it comes with these CDs. I have a little CD player. The student puts their headphones in and they do the lesson themselves, and they have to master each lesson. So this is a mastery spelling program. No moving on until you get everything right. Okay, next up we have science. This is from Tan Books as well. I have a lot from Tan Books this year. Like I said, I'm trying to incorporate more Catholic materials into our curriculum, so I'm pretty excited. We are going to be studying the Earth. This is my book that I will read out of to the kids and, show them the pictures and everything. And then I did get each of my kids workbooks. We don't always do workbooks, but like I said, my older kids, they're getting bigger. They need to be able to take what they're learning and start to put it down, with pen and paper. That helps with retention. So next up here, we have these leveled readers. I have Magnificat readers from St. Augustine Press. This is another Catholic publisher. These are just beautiful, very old books. They redid these books, kind of modernized them, but just beautiful. Lots of Bible stories, hymns, poems, first and second reader here. So I'm excited to incorporate these for my little guy who's still developing in his reading. Here we have Latin. Latina Christiana is a program from Memoria Press. I really like Memoria Press. So I've got a lot of Memoria Press, a lot of Tan Books, and a lot of St. Augustine Press here in my collection. Each of my 3 children do have workbooks, but I don't know how much I expect out of my 7-year-old. I just thought he might want to participate too, so I did get him a workbook. Okay, now on to religion. Every single day, we read straight out of the Bible, and I do that at breakfast. It's a great way to set the tone for our day. Right now, I'm using the RSV. This is the Adventure Study Bible. I think it's called the Adventure Study Bible from Ascension Press. It's good. It reads very well. It's a good word for word. I believe it's a word for word translation. I am really enjoying it. And to use as our sort of Bible study or Bible guide, this is from Tan Books as well. We're going to be going back through the Old Testament. We've already read verse by verse through the Old Testament, but we're going to recap and look at this through a Catholic lens, because as you'll know, there are many, everyone who opens the Bible might come to a little bit of a different interpretation. So I've got activity books, I've got test books for the kids that came with this, and I also got this. It is Old Testament poetry from St. Augustine Press. So I thought, here and there, we can incorporate this a little bit. It might be fun. Here I have IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing Materials for Language Arts and Grammar. My 7-year-old, he's still we're not working on this. We're just doing the Explode the Code. He gets enough of a taste of language arts and grammar in there that, I don't need to do anything specific for him, but my 5th and 6th graders, they do need specifics. Okay, I have these very well used and loved little caddies here for each child, so I organized all of their books. And then I have my morning basket. These are all of our textbooks and my books my teacher's manuals, textbooks, and our morning memory materials. In the morning, we do Bible study, like I said, every morning. I do have a planner here. This is very fancy from Aldi. It was like $7, and it's my favorite homeschool planner ever. So snag you one if you can. They come out every year around New Year's. Yeah, I just have all of my books here that I will be reading to the kids from go here in my morning basket. And no one gets to touch this. This is mine. So it stays nice and organized. Of course, they can get books out of here if they ask, but they need to ask because this is my space and I need to be able to pull books out when I need them. So aside from everything in this stack here, I've already showed you guys, but I have some more materials in here for our morning memory work. So this book is Heroes of God's Church. I thought that would be inspirational to pull from that here and there in the morning. English grammar recitation from Memoria Press. Of course, every day we do catechism, and I use Baltimore Catechism, which is a Q&A style catechism. A favorite of my children are these art cards from Memoria Press. They get to memorize famous works of art, the artist, and the time period. It really fits in nicely with a classical education. And then some math fact cards. That goes great in the morning. Latin memory cards. And last but not least, I have just Bible fact memory cards. And all these memory cards come from Memoria Press. You can see I really, really love Memoria Press. They have so many great materials. So that's a big stack there, but believe it or not, it all fits in my morning basket. I don't do this all every day, but I know I always have something to pull from. All right, it is about 1:30. I made myself a cup of tea. We have a little over an hour before we have to be back at the fair. So I am going to try to get to as many questions as I can from the question box that I put up this morning on Instagram, just asking what you guys wanted to know about homeschooling. So the number one question that I got was, what age do you start? And I've been doing this for 6 years. This will be my 6th year. My kids did do school for 1 year, and I found out that was not for us. Nothing against that particular school. It's just not for us. We really like homeschooling. So I've got a few years under my belt, and I've tried a few different approaches. I got a lot of questions asking what to do for like a 2 or 3-year-old. What curriculum do you use for that age or for preschool? Now, this is just me. At that age, they're still so much of a baby that I don't do a full curriculum for any child under 7. That's just me. They do not get a full curriculum. But as far as exactly what age to start schooling with the basics, like reading, writing, arithmetic, that's going to depend somewhat on the readiness of the child. I mean, I have a nephew who's 3, and he is just highly intelligent. It's crazy almost. It's almost startling when you talk to him how intelligent he is. So he would be totally capable, I know, of beginning to learn to read. So I think if you have a child who's ready at 3, the first thing that I would do was teach them to read. I've done it both ways. I have taught kids to read early, and I have taught a child to read late. And I definitely prefer teaching to read early, because a child who can read can keep themselves occupied, and they can find topics they're interested in and dive into those topics. They can also start working independently on their schoolwork. Whereas if you have a 7, 8, 9-year-old who can't read, you're going to have to read every instruction to that child and explain every last thing to that child for every subject. And once they get up to being 8, 9 years old, they have a full curriculum. So that is a huge burden. So, I don't have an exact answer for this. I think 5 is a really good age to start teaching reading. I got another question saying, is it true that the later you start teaching, the better? I think I kind of just answered that, but let me expound on that just a little bit. This is something that I have seen become really popular in the homeschooling community lately, and that is the idea of unschooling, just letting kids pick things up as they will, or the idea of waiting until the child shows interest. Well, some kids aren't going to show interest in reading until they're 10 or 11 years old, and they're at Vacation Bible School, and they realize you're the only child who can't read, and it's humiliating. I've seen this happen, you guys. I'm not just making up this scenario. It's very embarrassing for the child when you're kind of in your homeschooling bubble, and it doesn't seem like it's a big deal that they can't read. But the second you want to start socializing and doing activities with other kids, it becomes very obvious that that child is very far behind. So that's just one reason that I don't like delayed reading. The other reason is like I said, they are totally dependent on you for everything. And they're getting to an age to where their brains they're entering that logic phase of really thinking things through, and they can't even read. I'm just not a fan of that. I really think the younger, the better. So that puts me at odds with almost everyone in the homeschooling community right now, because this is what I see as the prevailing popular idea is wait, teach them later, let the kids lead. On that note, we don't let our kids lead anything in our home, so that just doesn't go well with our parenting philosophy. John and I lead our home. We make the decisions. Of course, like I said earlier, we do look at the readiness of the child. If a child does not have the developmental skills or ability to do a certain task, then we're not going to force that. So I don't know if you guys have seen these posts are kind of popular when they go around x-rays of little ones' hands, and they show how a 3 and 4-year-old literally cannot grip a pencil. It's very hard for them. So I'm not going to make that little one start learning handwriting. I would just do activities like learning to read and identify numbers and maybe do math facts without the writing portion. So hopefully that answers the questions of what age we start, earlier versus later, and readiness of the child. That's something that's going to serve you really well throughout your entire homeschooling journey, is staying in tune with each child, noticing their interests, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their readiness to take on a new subject. And sometimes when that time comes to where you need to take on a new subject, but the child is not showing readiness, you just need to get creative. So I had one child who actually had vision problems, and reading was anything to where we had to do pen and paper was a struggle. This child would get headaches, and it was just very difficult. It was new for me. I hadn't experienced this. So I got creative and I found this Secret Stories. Secret Stories is a phonics program, helps decoding for reading. And it comes with cards that are really big that can hang on your wall, and they're brightly colored. So this really helped this child to identify letters and combinations and start to be able to read. So sometimes you just have to get creative when a child is not having success with what you're using or they're not thriving. Okay, favorite curriculum for learning to read. I have a few things that I really like. I have used the book Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. I've used that on 2 children and it worked really well. It's very cheap. It's under $15, I think, and it really does teach your child to read in 100 lessons. And so if you do 1 lesson a day, that's just a few short months and your child is able to read at an introductory level. The second thing that I like is what I just showed you guys. This is Secret Stories. This is phonetic decoding. This has been a game changer, and I will be using this for all of the kids we have in the future moving forward because it's just so fun. The kids really, even my kids, when I did introduce this, the ones who were already readers wanted to know the secrets and they wanted to be in on the game. And I'm usually not a person to do games or anything like that, but the kids really liked it and it wasn't that complicated. So Secret Stories, look into this. And the last thing I use for teaching reading is Explode the Code. It comes in different levels. This is phonics as well. It does have a little bit of writing, so if you have a little one who's not writing, you could just write for them. This one's written in, you can see here. But for kids under 7, this is like all I use for handwriting, phonics, reading, even language arts, because as you progress through the levels, they'll have to start putting together sentences, and I think it even has them start to do some punctuation and different things like that. Okay, do you need internet? And do you sit with them or can they work independently? So we do not use internet at all in our homeschool. And my kids are going into 6th, 5th, and 3rd. We have never used internet. I really like pen and paper. If you look at the science behind learning from screens, it's not good. And if just on a practical level, if you look at performance in this country, since we have introduced all this tech and the screens into the classrooms, it's not good. Performance has gone down, and then you have the problem of distraction and all of the other effects that the screens have on the child's brain. I'm just not a fan of screens for homeschool. Now, that's not to say that I won't ever use the internet or screens for learning. You know, in the future, if we do end up homeschooling through high school and we get into, I have a child who gets into some really complicated math or something, and I just feel like I'm stretched too thin and I can't sit and teach that while teaching the other children, then I'm not afraid to do online lessons for whatever curriculum we're using at that point. So it would just be something that I would do in moderation. Like I would never do an all online program to where the child is sitting in front of a screen all day. That's just kind of defeats one of the purposes of why we homeschool. And as far as sitting with them or them working independently, a lot of this is age-based. So this is another reason I like to get children reading as soon as possible, because then they can learn to work independently. They can have their to-do list every day, and they're responsible for going and getting started on that and then asking me when they have questions. Of course, there are some subjects that I just have to teach hands-on. I do teach hands-on. We have conversations, it's round table, but as they get older and once they are reading well, they should be able to work independently, at least on their core subjects. How do you squeeze homeschooling into your day? How do you teach every subject every day? I always feel pressed for time. Okay, I do not squeeze homeschooling into my day. So once our school year starts, we take the summer off. Once our school year starts, homeschooling is my day. That is my number one job. Everything else then takes a back seat. So you might see my YouTube slow down. You might see me slow down posting on Instagram, because everything else comes after homeschooling. My first job is a teacher. So then I switch my perspective to think, how can I fit my other duties into my homeschooling day? And that is just non-negotiable if you are the only person home teaching and trying to raise children. If you have your husband home, you have two adults in the home, and then maybe you can get away with being a little less structured, but I cannot. I have to make homeschooling the number one priority. I do not teach every subject every day. That's another thing. We do modified block scheduling. So our core subjects, reading, writing, math, those we do every single day. And we do Bible study every day in the morning. We have a few things that we do every single day, but a lot of our other subjects, we do group learning like science, history, any memory work we do. For those subjects, they just don't need to be taught every day. So let's see, my history curriculum this year, I think it has 22 lessons in it. So if I do one lesson a week, then I'm still going to finish well before the end of the school year. Now my kids love history, so we'll probably do more than one lesson a week, and we might move into next year's curriculum before the end of the year, because that's something that they don't want to stop doing. They really enjoy history, but yeah, I don't teach every subject every day. That's another reason why I don't do bundles, because there's not as much flexibility. It's very rigid. Now, if you're somebody who likes rigid scheduling, then that would be for you. I don't like rigid scheduling. I like to have a routine and a very certain and definite flow that still allows for some flexibility. Okay, next question. Is it difficult? I don't have a degree and my husband doesn't think I'm qualified. Okay, as far as homeschooling goes, you definitely don't need a degree to homeschool. What you need to homeschool is you need good time management skills. You need a good reason why you're doing it. That way you stay focused and you're passionate about it and you're actually into it. Your kids will be able to tell if you're into it or if it's forced. And you need to be able to read. And reading includes reading comprehension. I see a lot of people say, if you can read, you can homeschool. That's true, but you need to be able to comprehend what you're reading in order to teach your children. So, I think most people are capable of homeschooling, but this is going to be very unpopular. I don't think everyone should homeschool. If you're a person who hates learning, reading gives you anxiety, reading comprehension has always been a struggle, and nothing but anxiety comes up when you think of homeschooling, then homeschooling might not be for you, and that's okay. But I'll say this, I do have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree, and then I finished part of a master's degree, so I have quite a bit of higher education, but I have learned more in the 6 years that I have homeschooled my children than I ever learned in any of my formal, very expensive private education. And that is because of the classical model that we do. We're not just memorizing things to take a test and get the grade so that one day we can hopefully get a job and clock in and clock out. That is not our goal. Our goal is to participate in the great conversation. That's what classical education is all about. The great conversation is just the story of our world, the story of life, why we're here, the great events and characters and dramas of all of history. So that's why we do school. And I learned so much better that way when I feel like I'm part of a big story than just memorizing facts. So you definitely don't have to have any degrees or specific certifications to homeschool. Like I said, you just need time management, you need to actually want to do it, and you need to be able to read and comprehend what you're reading so that you can turn around and discuss what you're teaching with your kids. I got a lot of questions about starting with a toddler when you have other babies. So like I said, I would not do a full homeschool curriculum bundle with a toddler. That's just me. What I would do is I would start reading the Bible out loud every day and start having your little ones practice playing quietly while you read. They don't have to sit still, but they do have to play quietly. That's how we started is, I would read aloud to them. We still do a ton of read aloud, and they could play quietly. Any child, and still to this day, any child 7 and under gets to play quietly while I read. Once you're over 7, then you need to sit still and you need to pay attention and be able to answer questions and participate in the discussion. Do you do a co-op? So we have never done a co-op in the past, mostly because I haven't found anything that really fit with the way that I teach. However, next year I'm really hoping to do the co-op at the new parish we are going to be joining. It is a classical Catholic co-op. They have a lot of the classes that I'm looking for, and so I'm excited to try something new. I'm definitely open to that. And for those of you who are really nervous about homeschooling, then a co-op may be a great way to just ease in and meet some people, get some ideas, and really get an idea of what the flow of your day should look like. How to address family who think your decision to homeschool is wrong. Okay, so the first thing here is just to talk to your spouse, because as long as you and your spouse are on the same page, then it's no one else's business, I guess, unless you're financially dependent on them or you're living with them or something. So if you've got a situation where you're living with your in-laws and they're paying all your bills, then they do get a say. But if that's not the case, then no one else gets a say in your children's education. So you still want to maintain a positive relationship. You want to avoid drama at all costs. So I would just smile and say, thank you so much for your concern. You've given me a lot to think about. And then you can end that conversation. And if they push any further, then I, as a woman, just default to my husband. I will say, I'll let my husband get back to you on that. And that usually shuts the conversation down right then and there, because people are a lot less likely to give trouble to a man than they are to a mother. How many hours a day do you homeschool? And how do you keep the kids' attention on you? So I try to keep in mind their age and keep it age appropriate. As they get older, they do need to be able to sit and focus for longer periods of time and really engage in conversation. How many hours a day do we homeschool? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. As they get older, it's more. I can tell you it's definitely more as they get older. So if you hear somebody say, oh, it only takes me 1 hour, well, for what age is the next question I would ask. I can tell you under 7, it's 30 to 45 minutes, and that's it, because that is all those little ones have in them. And when I say 30 to 45 minutes, I mean sitting down and doing age-specific work like math, reading, and writing. They still are present and participating in the group topics though, so they're still absorbing a lot. They get more hours that way, but the sit down time, it's very low for the little kids, and as they get older, then every year it does increase. Okay, the last question I'm going to answer here is for scheduling. I do have an idea of what we want to need to accomplish every year. So I buy my curriculum for that entire school year, and I know that by the end of that year, we at least need to finish what I have bought. However, I do not go through and plan every single day of the year right at the beginning of the school year. I actually just plan weekly. That allows us enough flexibility to really enjoy that benefit of homeschooling, but it does keep us on task. And like I said, we do modified block scheduling, so each kid does their age level core subjects every day, and then the group subjects, we might do history Tuesday and Thursday, religion and Latin Monday, Wednesday, science Tuesday and Thursday as well. Something like that. I actually haven't planned it out for this year yet, but something like that. That is very doable for me. Okay, well, I think that wraps up the Q&A. You guys had a lot of good questions. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be sure to link everything that I mentioned as far as curriculum goes in the description below. I will see you guys next week.